Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai. So Hare Krishna dear devotees, thank you very much for joining us, and I wanted to seek your good wishes and blessings so that we can dive into the nectar of the Bhagavad Gita and try to please the Supreme Lord with some effort to try to understand his mission, his purpose, which is so beautifully given to us in the Srimad Bhagavad Purana. So, Bhagavad Gita. Now, this is the Gita Mahatmya that we're looking at, written in Sanskrit by Vyasadeva, and we find it in the Padma Purana, originally recited by Lord Shiva. And I was thinking every day that we recite a chapter from the Bhagavad Gita, we'll recite one of these verses. So we'll start with verse number 1. So we get an idea of what Lord Shiva thinks of the Bhagavad Gita. Okay, so this is a slightly bigger version. We can recite this together. Gita Shastram Idam Punyam Yabhet Pulam Vishnu Padam Apnoti Ayashvadi Varjita.
If one properly follows the instructions of Bhagavad Gita, one can be freed from all the miseries and anxieties of life. One will be freed from all fears in this life, and one's next life will be social.
Such a wonderful first verse quotation, right? Lord Shiva and Shri Vyasadeva of the Gita Mahatmya. So, if we can learn the instructions of the Bhagavad Gita, we're going to go a long way to become freed from miseries and anxieties of our life. These miseries and anxieties, as we discussed yesterday, won't necessarily go away. So we're living in the material world, which is Dukhalayam Shashvatam, as Krishna explains, full of miseries and very temporary by nature. But we may become freed from all the fears that come with the anxiety. And after we leave this body, we'll go to the spiritual world. So we'll start with the first chapter, which is named Observing the Armies on the Battlefield of Kurukshetra. The way we've split this is into various segments according to the topic, subject matter that is described in the Bhagavad Gita. So it'll be roughly 9 or 10 or 11 verses at a time. And then we stop at that junction and just do a quick summary and a lesson that we can learn from what we just read. So today, between myself and Jayanti, we will do the reading of the various texts of the Bhagavad Gita. But in future sessions, I'll be very happy if devotees wanted to volunteer to read the texts, the translations. And in this way, we also get the practice of reading the translations of the Bhagavad Gita. And it said that if we read one chapter every single day, then actually our lives will become very sublime. And we will see how easy it is to read a chapter a day. We'll make a start. Chapter 1, text 1. Dhatarashtra said, O Sanjay, after my sons and the sons of Pandu assembled in the place of pilgrimage at Kurukshetra, desiring to fight, what did they do? So this is Dhatarashtra is blind, and Sanjay, who is his chariot driver, but here he's actually taking shelter of Sanjay and asking him, please tell me, what happened on the battlefield? Sanjay said, O king, after looking over the army arranged in the military formation by the sons of Pandu, King Duryodhan went to his teacher and spoke the following words. Text 3. O my teacher, behold the great army of the sons of Pandu, so expertly arranged by your intelligent disciple, the son of Draupadi. So here actually, Duryodhana's having a little bit of a go at his teacher. You taught this disciple of yours, and look at this wonderful army arranged before us. You taught him, now he's fighting against us. Text number 4. Here in this army are many heroic bowmen, equal in fighting to Bhima and Arjun, great fighters like Yuyudhana, Virata, and Draupadi. Text 5. There are also great heroic powerful fighters like Drashtaketu, Chekitana, Kashiraj, Purujit, Kuntiboj, and Saipya. Text number 6. There are the mighty Yudhamanyu, the very powerful Uttamanuj, the son of Shubhadra, and the sons of Draupadi. All these warriors are great chariot fighters. Text number 7. But for your information, O best of the Brahmanas, let me tell you about the captains who are specially qualified to lead my military force. There are personalities like you, Bhishma, Karna, Kripa, Ashwatthama, Vikarna, and the son of Somadhat, called Bhurishwar, who are always victorious in battle. There are, text number 9, there are many other heroes who are prepared to lay down their lives for my sake. All of them are well equipped with different kinds of weapons and are all experienced in military science. Text number 10. Our strength is immeasurable, and we are perfectly protected by grandfather Bhishma, whereas the strength of the Pandavas, carefully protected by Bhima, is limited. Text number 11. All of you must now give full support to grandfather Bhishma as you stand at your respective strategic points of entrance into the phalanx of the army. So this is the first part. This chapter contains 46 verses, and we've recited 11 of them. And it's a convenient place to stop and just do a quick summary. The first verse, the Dhritarashtra is the king who is blind, but he had material ambitions. Even though he was blind, he wanted to rule the kingdom, and those material ambitions were carried forward by his son Duryodhana. And unfortunately, they became very unjust in their dealings with the Pandavas. And here, the first verse actually is Dharamkshetra, Kurukshetra. So it starts with the Dhritarashtra Vacha. Vacha means spoke, said. Dhritarashtra. Rashtra means land. Dhrita means holding on to that land. Dhritarashtra, he was very attached to the land. So he wouldn't give up the kingdom, even though he was not qualified to rule that kingdom. There was a more qualified person called Yudhishthira. So now, Dhritarashtra, although he was blind, he was very ambitious materially. Still, he realized he was unable to understand what was happening on the battlefield. He was in Kurukshetra, he was in Hastinapur, the battle was taking place in Kurukshetra. But he knew Sanjay had access to what was actually happening on the battlefield through his guru, Srila Vyasdev. So Sanjay was actually an extraordinary personality. Okay, so very nice question by Priti, and I think this is quite a good format of asking questions if it's convenient for people. You can ask by comment, or you can ask as we're going along as well, by just speaking out. Did Duryodhana or Dhritarashtra ever feel they were on the right side, Dharma side? Yes, in fact, Dhritarashtra thought that he had been treated unjustly. Yeah, that's right. Because he was the eldest son, but he was born blind. But you can't necessarily have a blind king. So initially they made Pandu the king, but then Pandu lost his life, and then they had to install Dhritarashtra as the king. But that was only temporary. Why? While Pandu's son, eldest son, Yudhishthira, grew up, who would take up the reins. But so in that sense, he felt greatly treated badly. So in one sense, you could say that he was perhaps thinking that this is not right. So he was feeling that this is unjust, the way he was treated. So in that sense, but Duryodhana had no qualms whether it was right or wrong. It didn't matter to him. He was very spoilt son of a king, and unfortunately, it translated into his behavior as well. It's a good question, but if you want to ask a follow-up question, you're welcome to do so. So, what is the lesson to learn from this first verse? Actually, this first verse is so important. Our Guru Maharaj, he spoke on this verse for many, many weeks at a time because it's such an important verse. Dhritarashtra knew he was not on the side of Dharma, and yet the first words that came out of his mouth were Dharam Kshetra, Kurukshetra. Tell me, Sanjay, what is happening on the land of auspiciousness, religiousness? So he was scared that my sons are fighting in the land of religiousness, righteousness, and yet we are not on the right side. We are on the side of irreligion. So what is there to learn from this? There's quite a lot, but we will keep it very short and brief because we want to come through the whole chapter today. So king was aware battle was going to take place in a holy place. His sons were unholy. He was fearful, being blind, both materially and spiritually. He sought the help of Sanjay to inform him about the battle. So he didn't want spiritual guidance from Sanjay. He wanted to just understand what was happening on the battlefield. So what we can learn in our lives is that we also are blind to a huge extent. We can't, for example, see what's beyond this wall unless we go around the room and see what is there. So our vision is very limited, and we should also seek help. So this is just a broad lesson to understand at this point, and later on we'll see, especially in the second chapter, how we need to seek help. So this is just the first little drop of a lesson to learn, little instruction there. But there's a more important instruction in the sense that the rest of the 10 verses, Duryodhana is busy counting his army, blinded by greed, envy, and material desire. Now the problem with this is one who is always entangled in terms of I and my, I, me, and mine becomes oblivious to the ill effects of one's action in society. And unfortunately, when we have this attitude and mood of everything belongs to me or everything's about me, how I feel, what is mine, what about me, then it's going to end in frustration and disappointment. That's inevitable. So the second lesson to learn, from the very beginning of our life, we generally, I would say, have been brought up in this culture of I and mine, always having expectations from others. And this unfortunately starts from our birth, our childhood, and we always have things done for us. And if something is not done for us, we throw tantrums. When these expectations are not met, our expectation, that leads to frustration, anger. So we need to try to learn to lower our expectations from others. Now, the flip side of that is the next lesson. So if you just bear with us for the next lesson, and then we can put both things together. So we can do the next verses, which are, it's the 7 verses from text number 12 to text number 19. Suresh, do you have a question?
I do.
Yes.
The negativity in the Dhritarashtra's side was always there. He was blind. The wife chose to be blind.
Yeah.
And the biggest blind person was the son, who couldn't see, because he was jealousy. Jealousy is blindness. You can give it any name.
Yeah.
Negativity is blindness.
Correct. Very good point. Very good point. Actually,
yeah, so anything in life, when you are negative about anything, I stress anything, yeah, then you're not happy.
Super.
If you have a positive view in life, moving forward, you are the happiest and peaceful person.
Very nice point, Suresh. And in fact, that will lead us on to the next lesson very, very nicely. So I appreciate that.
So one is a blind side, which
yes.
is the Dhritarashtra side, and the positive side is the Pandavas.
Correct.
And they always, that's why Lord Krishna is true, positive, light, everything. So they had the power. Pandavas had the power of Lord Krishna.
Yes. They were devotees. That's right.
No. They were devotees, but I'm going to the point that the positivity, positive in the Pandavas and the light of Krishna. If you see in future, in the following texts will come that how Yudhishthira is so, he's got all the answers from the Krishna.
Well, we'll see. Let's move on. Thank you, Suresh, and your contribution is always welcome.
Thank you. I wanted to say that because that blindness is very important in the start.
Yes, that's correct. Thank you very much. And unfortunately, we are all actually blind.
Yes,
and
we are.
We need to have a cure for this blindness, and this is what Bhagavad Gita does. It actually removes our covering. Our eyes are covered at the moment, and that covering is removed by Bhagavad Gita. So
one day we'll open.
It will open very soon. As we're going through this, we'll see how it opens.
Thank you.
So I'd like to ask Jayanti, would you like to read?
The text 12. Then Bhishma, the great valiant grandsire of the Kuru dynasty, the grandfather of the fighters, blew his conch shell very loudly, making a sound like the roar of a lion, giving Duryodhana joy. 13. After that, the conch shells, drums, bugles, trumpets, and horns were all suddenly sounded, and the combined sound was tumultuous. That's 14. On the other side, both Lord Krishna and Arjuna, stationed on a great chariot, drawn by white horses, sounded their transcendental conch shells. It's 15. Lord Krishna blew his conch shell called Panchajanya. Arjuna blew his, the Devdutt, and being the voracious eater and performer of Herculean tasks, blew his terrific conch shell called Pondra. 16 to 18. King Yudhishthira, the son of Kunti, blew his conch shell, the Anant Vijay, and Nakul and Sadev blew the Sugosha and Manipushpak. That great warrior, the king of Kashi, the great fighter Shikandi, Dhristadyumna, Virat, the unconquerable Satyaki, Drupad, the sons of Draupadi, and others, O king, such as the mighty armed son of Subhadra, all blew their respective conch shells. 19. The blowing of these different conch shells became uproarious, vibrating both in the sky and on the earth. It shattered the hearts of the sons of Dhritarashtra.
So this last verse out of all of those shows an indication of where this battle is going. Despite Duryodhana's boastful words in the first 11 verses, the result was actually destined to be against him. The result was he was going to lose. It's clear from the outset. Now, we're going to just move to the lessons first, quickly. Being so selfish, it always ends in misery. Now, if we compare Duryodhana and do this thing. Duryodhana had everything. He had wealth, he had servants, he had opulence, he had, you name it, he had it. There was nothing lacking. He had cooks, he had so many different cooks. Whatever he wanted, he could just ask, he could just click his fingers and he would have it within a few months. However, he was never happy. He was always miserable. And this is because his mind was not under control. He was always in the mood of taking. I want this, I want that. One time somebody put an umbrella over him so that he wouldn't get sunstroke. And he became so angry at his servant. He said, "What are you doing? Nothing stands above me, not even the umbrella." Such arrogance. Now, the opposite of that is giving, which can give great satisfaction. So taking can result in misery, and giving can result in happiness. And wanted to see how that can apply to us. These are quite interesting. Just like what Suresh was just saying, thoughts. About 80,000 thoughts go through our mind every single day. And most of them, unfortunately, are negative. Somebody said something horrible to us about 55 years ago, and I still remember that. And it's still in my heart. It still pains me. I think about it all the time. Or we're thinking negatively about something that, like we've lost something and we're constantly lamenting, or we are fearful that we will lose something that we have. These are the sort of thoughts that go through our mind constantly. They're just negative. So we need to watch our mind. And if we can make those thoughts, rather than being negative, turn them into positive thoughts, then as Suresh was saying very nicely, our life actually becomes very positive and we become endearing to the Lord. So this is where our mind will be taking these negative thoughts and making us constantly being in misery. Whereas if the soul, which controls the mind through the intelligence, takes over and has a positive impact on the thoughts, then we are actually releasing ourselves from misery. So the thoughts, we learn to give with our thoughts, positive thoughts. Words, with our words, often, because our thoughts are always negative, the words that come out of our mouth are probably going to be negative as well, because our words will follow our thoughts. So if we get in the mood of positive thinking, appreciating others, being grateful actually for everything that we possess, everything that we have, this will completely be a huge change in our mindset. And if we're grateful for what we have, then we reduce our concept of always taking, and we get into the mood of able to give. Even if we give some nice words of appreciation to others, that is a very nice charitable act. Actions. We can help others by our deeds, according to our capacity, of course. But rather than always expecting somebody to do something for us, which will lead into difficulties, because we will never meet the expectation we have of others. We will always be dissatisfied. This person, he brought me a present last year. This year, not even a word. If we have those expectations, they'll lead to misery. But if we are able to help others, then we are giving. Nobody can stop us from giving. Taking, people may not give. So we end up in unhappiness. But giving, people can't stop us from giving. And finally, possessions, again, according to our capacity, we can assist others. So this is something that's very nice to start to put into our lives. Of course, many people already put these actions into place. But get in the mood of giving rather than taking. This is an important lesson of life, because we've been brought up in this culture of always taking and thinking nothing is wrong with that. Well, in one sense, nothing is wrong with that. Only problem is we're going to stay in misery. So let's move to the next section. Actually, Madhusudan Babu, would you like to read? We're reading from 28, sorry, from 20 to 27.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Yeah, I'm listening. Yeah, so text 20. At that time, Arjuna, the son of Pandu, seated in the chariot, bearing the flag marked with Hanuman, took up his bow and prepared to shoot his arrows. O king, after looking at the sons of Dhritarashtra drawing in the military array, Arjuna then spoke to Krishna these words. Text 21, 21. Arjuna said, O infallible one, please draw my chariot between the two armies so that I may see those present here who desire to fight and with whom I must contend in this great trial of arms. Let me see those who have come here to fight, wishing to please the evil-minded son of Dhritarashtra. Sanjay said, O descendant of Bharat, having thus been addressed by Arjuna, Lord Krishna drew up the chariot in the midst of the armies of both parties. Yes. In the presence of Bhishma, Drona, and all the other chieftains of the world, the Lord said, just behold, Parth, all the Kurus assembled here. So Krishna is drawing the army, the chariot in between the two armies that were assembled. And as we've gone through, both armies had the greatest warriors on both sides. But obviously Duryodhan had bigger armies. He had 100 of the brothers, he was one of the 100 brothers of Kurus. And his closest brother was, Karna was on his side, and Bhishma, and he had even got Lord Krishna's army, the Narayan army, because when he went to Krishna, both Arjuna and Duryodhan went to Krishna, but proudly Duryodhan was happy to take Lord Krishna's army, but Krishna had said that, well, you can either have my army or you can have me, but I will not pick up any weapons to fight or anything. So I will only be just present there as a charioteer. But Arjuna proudly, Arjuna was submissive, he was humble, but he was surrendered to Krishna. He just accepted Krishna. But Duryodhan, no, he was proud. He just thought Arjuna is a fool. How can he just take Krishna on his side? So anyway.
That's a really nice pastime that you shared, actually. Thank you.
Yeah, so Duryodhan, he obviously very, very proudly accepted the army, took the biggest army in the world, and Narayan's army, and just left Krishna. You can go on Pandava's side. I'm not bothered about that. I know I'll be victorious. So there's such pride in a person like Duryodhan. And like you say, so far, a son like Duryodhan, Dhritarashtra was so captivated by his son's desires that he was also blinded, not just materially, but spiritually, and blinded by his son's desires as well. So there he was in a very, but then Duryodhan threw tantrums every time. People who are very, very materialistic, they just want something, they just throw tantrums. I will kill myself. He even used to threaten his father. I will take my life if I don't have my way. I will do this, I'll do that. So he drove everybody to this condition, and then they all ended up on this battlefield of Kurukshetra.
And we are a little bit like that, aren't we? We have this I, my, me, and mine. we have this battle of life going through life.
Yes, that's right. We always
want
want
gratitude.
And throwing tantrums, and we don't have our own way. You know, we will kill ourselves. We threaten people sometimes like that and all that. And so they all ended up here on this battlefield of Kurukshetra. And we can all end up in our own battlefields as well. There Arjun could see within the midst of the armies of both parties, his fathers, grandfathers, teachers, maternal uncles, brothers, sons, grandsons, friends, and also his father-in-laws and well-wishers. When the sons of Kunti, Arjuna, saw all these different grades of friends and relatives, he became overwhelmed with compassion and spoke thus.
So this is the third aspect where we're going to stop, the third convenient place. So first was where Duryodhana was counting his army. Second was where everybody was blowing the conches, and Krishna and Arjuna blow the conch of the other side and shatter their hearts. And then here we're seeing the description of how Arjuna is asking Krishna, please take my chariot into the middle. In fact, he's ordering Krishna, and Krishna is acting very humbly as his chariot driver. And this is the beauty of the Lord. The Lord doesn't show his opulence. He likes to hide his opulence. And in this situation, being the chariot driver of Arjuna actually is quite a demeaning position, because in a war, especially in a war, how you would instruct a chariot driver is by kicking him. If you want to go left, you'd kick him on the left. If you want to go right, you kick him on the right. You don't have time to say, go right, go left. So you can imagine, this is the position the Lord has taken. So it's really incredible. It's such a amazing how the Lord can be so humble. Anyway, he wants to take a final look at the armies, and he asks Krishna, please take my chariot into the middle. And what does Krishna do? This is the beauty of Krishna. He takes him right in front of, not Duryodhana, because if he saw Duryodhana, he would have just picked up the weapon, the arrow, and started shooting. He takes him in front of Bhishma. So this is Krishna. Krishna, in our own lives, he will often bring the challenge we don't want, he'll bring it right in front of us. This is the Lord. But we'll talk about that next time, but next lesson. But this one is, look at the intensity of the situation. In the middle of the war, Arjuna, he still wants to assess. Despite the intensity of the situation, he wants to take time to reflect. So our lives are crammed with lots and lots of responsibilities and pressing issues. And often we hear this, oh, I have no time. Especially this business about, come to the temple, oh, I have no time. Do some chanting, oh, no, I have no time. Do some reading, oh, I have no time. Actually, if Arjuna had time before the battle to ask Krishna to take the chariot into the middle of the battlefield, we also can find time to do some soul searching, some spiritual activity. We should not have this excuse, I have no time. Because if we maintain an excuse of no time, then literally the Lord will give us no time. But if we do make time, despite all of the intensity that we have in our lives, then we will see how the Lord frees up our time to be able to make informed decisions about our lives. So take the time. Arjuna took the time to go into the middle of the battlefield to assess the situation. Very, very nice lesson to learn. Take the time. Okay, so I'm going to swiftly go through the next couple of things. So text 28, Arjuna says to Krishna, my dear Krishna, seeing my friends and relatives present before me in such a fighting spirit, I feel the limbs of my body quivering and my mouth drying up. Text 29. My body is trembling. My hair is standing on end. My bow Gandiva is slipping from my hand and my skin is burning. I am now unable to stand here any longer. I am forgetting myself and my mind is reeling. I see only causes of misfortune. O Krishna, killer of the Keshi demon. So now, foreseeing the imminent suffering and the death that is inevitable consequence of war, Arjun begins to analyze his predicament. And at this stage, bereft of a broader spiritual vision, he becomes bewildered. So this is the point about how Krishna, he will, if we take our life towards him, he will make us face our challenges. The unwanted ones, especially. They will come in front of us. But he is so kind that he gives us the ability to deal with these challenges. So we should not be shaken up by challenges when they come. And there's a wonderful saying in the Indian army. It says as follows: the more we sweat in peace, the less we bleed in war. So whilst we are having a peaceful situation, perhaps in this lockdown, we may be having a little bit more peace than normal. At this time, we increase our bhakti. We increase our God consciousness, Krishna consciousness. Because the situation is calm, it doesn't mean we relax and we dive into sense enjoyment. No, we increase our self-realization. Because when the challenging situations come, when the war comes, the war of life comes, we will be able to deal with those situations. So this is what it means. We sweat in peace. So when the situation is conducive to less busy life, we focus in on spiritual life. When we are happy, we don't get lost in that happiness, but we focus in spiritual life. We start reading more Bhagavad Gita. We sweat in peace because then when the challenges come, we'll be able to deal with those challenges. We will bleed less when the wars come. And the wars will come. Krishna will, not just Krishna, this is the way of the world. This is, our karmas will come and we will have to deal with them. We can try to hide away from them, but even if we hide, they're still going to be before us. So instead, we face them. We face the challenges with Krishna by our side. He's there to build us in our character to deal with these challenges. He will always be protecting us. So this is a very, very important lesson to learn. And I love this quotation. The more we sweat in peace, the less we bleed in war. So whilst we are able to do as much bhakti as possible, because later on, who knows what the situation may be.
I do not see how any good can come from killing my own kinsman in this battle. Nor can I, my dear Krishna, desire any subsequent victory, kingdom, or happiness. Verse 235. O Govinda, of what avail to us our kingdom, happiness, or even life itself, when all those for whom we may desire them are now arrayed on this battlefield? O Madhusudan, when teachers, fathers, sons, grandfathers, maternal uncles, fathers-in-laws, grandsons, brothers-in-laws, and other relatives are ready to give up their lives and properties and are standing before me, why should I wish to kill them, even though they might otherwise kill me? A maintainer of all living entities, I'm not prepared to fight with them, even in exchange for the three worlds, let alone this earth. What pleasure will we derive from killing the sons of Dhritarashtra? 36. Sin will overcome us if we slay such aggressors. Therefore, it is not proper for us to kill the sons of Dhritarashtra and our friends. What should we gain, O Krishna, husband of the goddess of fortune? And how could we be happy by killing our own kinsmen? 37:38. O Janardhan, although these men, their hearts overtaken by greed, see no fault in killing one's family or quarreling with friends, why should we, who can see the crime in destroying a family, engage in these acts of sin? 39. With the destruction of the dynasty, the eternal family tradition is vanquished, and thus the rest of the family become involved in irreligion. 40. When irreligion is prominent in the family of Krishna, the women of the family become polluted, and from the degradation of womanhood, or descendant of Rishni, comes unwanted progeny. 41. An increase of unwanted population certainly causes hellish life both for the family and for those who destroy the family tradition. The ancestors of such corrupt families fall down because the performances for offering them food and water is entirely stopped. 42. By the evil deeds of those who destroy the family tradition and thus give rise to unwanted children, all kinds of community projects and family welfare activities are devastated. 43. O Krishna, maintainer of the people, I've heard by distinct succession those whose family tradition is destroyed dwell always in hell. 44. Alas, how strange it is that we are preparing to commit greatly sinful acts. Driven by the desire to enjoy royal happiness, we are intent on killing our own kinsmen. 45. Better for me if the sons of Dhritarashtra, weapons in hand, were to kill me unarmed and unresisting on the battlefield. 46. Sanjay said, Arjun, having thus spoken on the battlefield, cast aside his bow and arrows, sat down on the chariot, his mind overwhelmed with grief. That's the end of that chapter.
That's the end of the chapter, yes, very good. Now, Arjun said a lot. Krishna didn't say anything at all. At this time, Arjun had already decided what he was going to do. So Krishna remained quiet. He did not say anything. Now, he justifies his decision to retreat from the fighting on these bases. One, compassion. It would be cruel and heartless to prematurely terminate the lives of so many soldiers. Second thing, enjoyment. Even an unrivaled kingdom would bring no happiness, since he'd be bereft of the company of his near and dear ones. Third reason, we're incurring sin. We will be accruing bad karma as a result of such brutal violence. And the fourth is destroying the family. Wholesale killing involved would destroy the family unit and social structure, causing havoc for future generations. All of these are very good arguments, actually. And that's why Arjun resolved not to fight. Of course, it's a bit like his position is different in this situation, which we'll talk about in future sessions. But very briefly, Arjun is like the policeman. If a policeman sees a robbery taking place and he doesn't stop it, he's bereft of doing his duty. In the same way, Arjun was a Kshatriya. He had to carry out acts of justice, and this war was just because the Lord had sanctioned it. So all of these arguments are in themselves good arguments, but we'll see in future sessions how these arguments are all actually negated by the Supreme Lord. But the lesson to take from this point that Arjun is making, all these different points about compassion, enjoyment, sin and destruction, how does it impact us in our daily life? Now, how it does impact us, we often have excuses not to do bhakti. First excuse, I'm too young to take on this process of Krishna consciousness or God consciousness. Let me live my life. Let me live my life. And when I'm old, I'll take to Krishna consciousness. I'll take to this bhakti marg. Or second thing, why are you coming and telling me I can't enjoy my cigarettes and my drinking and my gambling? Let me enjoy. So the first, compassion, let me live my life. Second, let me enjoy my life. stop telling me to do bhakti. So that sometimes the mind will tell us this very point that, hey, why are you doing bhakti? You can watch television instead. You can do bhakti later. Let's enjoy ourselves at the moment. Third thing is stop worshipping demigods. That's one of the things that we try to avoid, because demigods are basically servants of Krishna. They're not supreme personalities of Godhead. We can respect them. We have to respect them. They're great devotees of the Lord. But the worship is exclusive for Krishna and Vishnu, etc. So, hey, if you stop us from worshipping demigods, we're incurring sin, because all our lives we have been worshipping demigods. So we're incurring sin by stopping this worship. In fact, that was the argument that was put forward by the Brijabasis when Krishna said to them, let's go and worship Govardhan. Govardhan supplies everything to us. Why are you worshipping Indra? The rains will fall. They fall on the ocean. So how clever is Indra? Forget Indra. Let's worship Govardhan. They worship Govardhan, and we know what happened. So that's another reason, right? Compassion, enjoyment, sin. Third is our family tradition doesn't allow us to go down the bhakti mark. We go other mark. We have different processes that we use, which are according to our family tradition. Nothing wrong with family tradition, as long as there's some basis behind it. So these are the sort of 4 types of excuses that we could come up with to not do bhakti. And we have to draw a line and say, no, we will do bhakti now. We have to be very careful of excuses that hamper our progress in Krishna consciousness. So this is the lesson that we can take from this part of the Bhagavad Gita, where Arjuna is coming up with so many excuses as to not to do his duty. So our prime duty, which we'll see tomorrow, is Swadharma is actually becoming, we have duties that pertain to the body, which we have to fulfill, but there are also duties that pertain to the soul, which are more important. And if we neglect that, then unfortunately we will be stopping our progress in Krishna consciousness. So we got 5 minutes, and I wanted to take questions if anybody has. We've read a whole chapter, 47 verses, 46 verses, and we've taken 6 lessons from them. But if there are any, and I'm going to share all these notes because I know it's not easy to retain what we've shared. And if anybody is not receiving these notes, please do message me privately your number, and we will share these notes with you. Are there any questions or any comments, anything that devotees like to share?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Somebody else, I think, was on as well.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to say, really nice lessons that you summarized in those things. Really, a different take on it. Yeah, and I like the way it was all set out. Like after a couple of verses, the summaries and lessons.
Okay.
Thank you.
No, thank you very much for that feedback. And if anybody else has any feedback, actually we like a negative feedback as well, because that helps us improve, because ultimately we want to serve you. By serving you, we're actually pleasing the Supreme Lord. So if there's something we can do better.
We are positive here, okay?
I love what you said, Suresh. You said
we are working on the positive notes.
Yeah, you set the tone. So it's really good, really nice. Appreciate
no, but this lesson, this session today was excellent. Really good.
The other sessions were not?
No, this no, honestly, this was really good. Very soothing and calming. You could visualize it.
Oh, wow. Okay, thank you.
We were in the Kurukshetra ourselves.
Yeah, that wasn't intention. It wasn't supposed to be soothing and peaceful.
No, it is. It was very, very nice. Thank you very much.
Appreciate your comment. Appreciate your feedback. Madhusan Babu?
Yeah, no, very nicely done. I mean, obviously, the lessons that are to be learned from this first chapter, and then obviously, a lot of the devotees are unfamiliar with Bhagavad Gita or what actually led to this whole situation on the battlefield. And Kurukshetra itself is a place in Bharat somewhere, north of Delhi, and they can go and visit that place. It's a Dharam Kshetra, as it's said, you know, and place of pilgrimage. And Guru Maharaj also used to encourage us to go there. Some of you have been there several times, and I've only been there once. But one of the lessons that you finally mentioned in lesson 6 was this thing about tapasya, that we don't realize that, you know, this whole material world is everything that we have to try and attain in life is based on doing a bit of tapasya, but we don't want tapasya. You see, like Duryodhan, yes. He didn't want to do tapasya. He just wanted to grab everything. He's a very materialistic, he doesn't even see or recognize Krishna when he's in front of Krishna. He doesn't even realize, because his heart is all covered up with his own materialistic desires and maya, and Krishna wouldn't even reveal himself to a person like that. So Krishna will act as Krishna, but you know, Duryodhan doesn't even recognize him, and he will. And like Duryodhan, we are also in that kind of situation where we are so materialistically afflicted that we want everything Krishna's property, Krishna's things. We want to enjoy Krishna's provided, you know, all the things in the world. In fact, you know, he's the one who makes arrangements for us to have all these things without the trees that are growing and the fruits that bear and the, you know, potatoes that grow under the ground. Without all that, we wouldn't have anything. But we don't recognize the fact that, you know, this is all coming from Krishna. We want to enjoy Krishna's property, but we don't want to know Krishna.
Fantastic point. Actually, this point about the gratitude, this is where it comes in very nicely, Madhusudan. So thank you. You linked it in nicely.
So that is my view on this first chapter, that Duryodhan had led everybody to this situation. But someone like Arjuna recognizes, and they are on the path of dharma, and Krishna is standing on the path of dharma. He is bringing them on the path of dharma. And they are humble, they show gratitude, they even recognize Krishna is guiding them, and they surrender to Krishna like that. But unlike Duryodhan, you know, and even, so it's a bit of a historical kind of situation that got them into this situation. But that's the main point of being a tapasya and showing gratitude. Thank you, Navi.
Nice point. Thank you. So for tomorrow, if anybody would like to read, because I want to encourage other devotees to read these translate sections, please do come forward. Happy for you to read. Gita is not difficult to read. As we saw from today, we've easily read one chapter. It didn't take too long. So, thank you very much. I'd like to.
There are quite a few devotees, and I think I would encourage, you know, people to come forward and read the verses as they are on, and then give a summary of their lesson or their experience. But at the same time, you know, people they should make note of some important verses that stand out prominently, and they can go and read the purports as well.
Good point.
Yeah.
So is there anything else anybody wanted to say? Just very briefly, overall summary, we have a certain picture of our success, which is, you know, shaped into our lives due to society and family and media. And at some point, we do question this perfect life that we're supposed to achieve because it doesn't give us any happiness. So, and we want to go deeper into the purpose of life. And this is exactly what Arjuna was expressing when he asked Krishna to take his chair into the middle. But if you notice, Krishna was silent. In this chapter, Krishna only said 2 or 3 words. He just said, behold, the Kuru army. But otherwise, he was just silent. So sometimes the Lord is silent when we don't ask him for, please guide me, what should I do? Instead, we want him to fulfill our desire. We know what we want to, what we need to be happy. Please be our order supplier. So that in that situation, Krishna stays silent. He won't reveal anything to us because we're not looking for answers from him. So that's an interesting take on this chapter as well. So thank you very much, dear devotees. I'd like to request Karuna.
You had something?
Oh, no. Okay, Karuna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Karuna.
Shri Lakshmi Nrsimha Devi ki jai, Prahlad Maharaj ki jai.